What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode, and welcome back to the final episode of 2023 as we are entering our fifth season. And when I say fifth season, it's a little bit misleading. We had our very first episode 1, was posted on the 28th of April 2020. And so 4 months from now, we will be turning 4. But I take it at the beginning of each year in January, that's a new season. So 2020 was season 1, 2021 was season 2, and so on. So we're entering our fifth season, but we're not yet 4. So let's just make it all clear. This episode, because it's the final episode of the year, I thought it's a good opportunity to take a look back at the episodes that we've had over the last couple of months, the last 12 months, and review the top insights from the top 10 podcasts. And what I've done is I've gone into the back end, the analytics behind my podcast, and I've had a look for the most popular podcasts, the ones that attracted the most downloads, and I've ranked it so that I can figure out exactly which one was number 1 and which one was number 2, and so on down to number 10. So I'll be going into that in a moment. Before I do, I want to just give you a very quick update. And the update, it's really something I'm very proud of. And if you've been looking at me on social media, you will have noticed I posted something about it. But just in the last couple of days, I have been notified by LinkedIn that I am now one of their top voices on the platform. And what they do is they choose people from certain areas, certain domains, industries, and they choose what they call the top voice for that area. And they have made me a top voice in commercial real estate, which I am very, very proud of. And when I saw it, I was just like, wow, it's a really, really nice accolade to get. And obviously, you guys are very much a part of this accolade, because without you listening in, I don't think there would be any episodes going out on a weekly basis. I don't think that would have turned into a blog on a weekly basis, and that wouldn't have turned into a newsletter that I post on LinkedIn on a weekly basis. And you can see how when you add up all of that, I've been pretty consistent, but it's only my consistency is actually down to you guys showing up. I wouldn't be making these if there wasn't great feedback from you guys. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your comments. Those of you who have gone in and actually left a review in iTunes or wherever, I go in and I read those reviews and I recognize a lot of your names, and I really do appreciate it. So those of you who've done it, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And those of you who are listening in and haven't gotten around to it, maybe have a look there and see if you can do it, because it does help the podcast. And the more of that kind of stuff I see, the more motivated I am to keep putting out the content. Now, in 2023, Behind the Facade actually hit number 1 in the charts around the category of investing. And so that's another accolade that I'm quite proud of. Number 1 podcast for investing. Let's be honest now, you only hit it for a day, and then somebody else comes along with a new upload, and then they go and hit that thing, and then they move on. So every time somebody uploads something new, and nowadays there's so many thousands of episodes out there that it can be hard to maintain a position in the top 10 or whatever. But I've managed to do that. Number 1 in investing and number 3 in business. Those are the 2 categories that I kind of register as. Now, what else have I got? As you know, I have been creating a couple of courses and programs and things like that for the listeners, for you guys. And I created 2 of them this year. As you know, I had my original accelerator program, and that's actually going through a complete revamp at the moment. And in at the start of 2024, so next week, I'm going to be releasing the new one. And the new one is, we'll say, Accelerator 2.0. And I've actually completely changed around all of the curriculum. I've introduced a whole load more modules, and I think it's going to be really good. So anyone who's listening in who's interested to be a part of that, please let me know. It is for the more advanced people that are going out there and raising money from investors and who are creating a public profile for themselves. You might have the best deal in the world out there, but it doesn't matter a damn if nobody knows about you and nobody has ever heard about you. And so you have to create a profile. So the whole idea of my accelerator is, there's obviously the whole property side. That's a given. You also have to know how to finance it, how to raise money from investors, how to present to investors, how to get your profile up to be known by investors, and all of that stuff. So that is the accelerator. Now, in addition to that, you will be aware that I created a novice level course, and that is for people who are starting out, who haven't quite, bought they may have bought their first property, but they're not considering themselves to be experts or advanced. And so there's a course there called Foundations for you guys. And there's also the mastermind. The mastermind doesn't really involve any educational piece. It is a weekly meeting online with myself. And we also have 3 in-person events a year where we meet up in a hotel and we have a couple of drinks, but we also have a full day of guest speakers, workshops, all that kind of stuff. So there's quite a good product ecosystem, as we call it, in this world. And if you would like to know more, go and check out the links below in the show notes. But what I wanted to actually mention just before I get on to the top 10 episodes for 2023 is all of the education and network that you may have. All of it really doesn't matter a damn if you're not actually going out there, taking action and implementing the stuff that you know. And that is why I have created a new course it's actually associated with the accelerator, and it is called Momentum. And the idea of Momentum, it's a 3-month program. I've selected 3 months because it's kind of a narrow focus. It's hyper accountable for the next 3 months. Move mountains, get some serious stuff done in the next 3 months, and be held accountable for your actions or your lack of actions if that happens to be the case. There's a weekly accountability meeting, and we also have weekly coaching sessions where I kind of go through strategies for overcoming procrastination, motivational strategies, how to increase your discipline, how to build your focus, all of that kind of stuff. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this specific one is it's new. It's starting in the next week. So this is kind of a hot offer, and it is an early bird offer to join that program at 50% off. It's 3 months, as I mentioned. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire if you're on the program. We already had our first sign up about an hour ago, somebody from the mastermind. And so I'm excited about it, and I'm looking forward to getting started. So guys, I'm going to get now into the main topic, and that is the main insights, or the kind of the more popular insights from the top 10 episodes of 2023. And starting with the 10th one, I'm going to go in reverse order because I want to keep you guys listening, of course. Number 10 was, if we go back now, this is episode 189. 159, so 30 episodes ago. And 30 episodes ago was episode 159. And I actually, funnily enough, having just mentioned momentum, that episode genuinely did achieve the 10th position. And it is how to overcome the procrastination that is holding you back. So if you'll bear with me now for a moment, I'm going to play you a short snippet from episode 159. Procrastination triggers guilt. And this explains why people who procrastinate will often pick up some other task and start doing it. And this is their way of distracting themselves from that feeling of guilt. So let's say you're supposed to start some sort of big paper or something like that. And instead of sitting down and getting started on the paper, you decide, oh, I better go and, put the washing on, or I better go and make my lunch for tomorrow, or I better go and start, filing my digital files in the server or whatever. This stuff comes out and it's in your mind, it's easier to do, and therefore it's more pleasant. But you're not looking to go and just sit down and watch TV, because sitting down watching TV would not alleviate the guilt. The guilt is being alleviated by you picking up some other task, just not the one that you don't feel like doing right now. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that quick snippet. Now, let's get into number 9. Now, number 9 was episode 146. And in episode 146, I asked the question, what is the optimum size for a deal? And in that particular episode, I went through all of the different size deals and the mindset and the knowledge and stuff in order to actually tackle, the different size deals. And so here is a brief snippet from that episode. The final point is the opportunity itself. And ultimately, this all comes down to the quality of the deal that you're looking at. And there's a couple of small little factors. There's not much to, a deal can have all sorts of different criteria, but it ultimately boils down to, do the numbers stack up? Is it a good deal? Is there a good risk-reward ratio? If you're putting 100,000 into a deal and there's a chance you'll make 25 grand, to go from 100 to 125, that's reasonably good. What's the downside? Is there the downside that you could lose all of the 100? If that was the case, then I would say it's a pretty bad deal. But if there was no downside, if the worst case scenario is that your 100 stays at 100 or goes to 105 instead of 125, well then you've managed your risks. But that is it. It's down to the economics of the deal. Does it stack? All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. Now let's get into number 8. And believe it or not, this is episode just around the same time, episode 143. And this one always attracts quite a few listeners. It is the episode on my best ever deal. And obviously the best ever deal, I often talk about one or two of those deals where literally in the right place at the right time and a couple of million made in the space of a couple of weeks. Very unusual, very rare deal, not something that has happened frequently. And so I'll play you a short snippet now. Now this deal that I'm about to tell you about it's extraordinary in terms of, it was a stroke of luck. And I kind of hesitate to tell people about this deal at times because I don't want to give anyone the impression that you can just click a finger and make profit like this in the property business, because it would be a disservice to give that impression, because it is not that easy. It requires rolling up sleeves and hard work and all that. But occasionally you get lucky. In the same way as occasionally you can get unlucky. But in this particular case, it was just extraordinary. Now, I'll give you some of the details. The site or the building was located in Clondalkin, and that's a part of Dublin, kind of West Dublin. And one of the main banks that occupy kind of all the main street locations in around Ireland and stuff, they had been located here. Now, our number 7 in the list here is episode number 67, and it's our very own Mary Conway. Mary is part of my mastermind, and she is also the chairperson of the Irish Property Owners Association. And Mary and myself, she came into my office and we had a good old conversation about the tough times that landlords are going through at the present time. And so here is a snippet from my conversation with Mary Conway.
Yeah, there's just been too many things. There's been COVID, there's been the war in Ukraine. I don't think the government ever really saw that there was going to be inward migration on the scale that it's happening. And I'm not talking about Ukrainians or international protection.
You're just talking about
people.
normal
I'm just
migration,
talking about people coming into work or people coming back from abroad. They were so used to everybody emigrating. And I remember, it's 2015 since I worked as a nurse, but on each ward in Beaumont, when you went up, there was a list of patients and their bed numbers. And what always struck me was you'd look at a list of 36 patients and there might be more than half of them weren't Gallagher or Conway or whatever. They were foreign names.
Yeah.
And the hospital was already at breaking point with our own Irish indigenous population.
All right, guys, number 6, and we are going to episode 144. And what's funny about this is that you liked listening to my best ever deal, but even more popular than that was my worst ever deal. And so I'm going to go through a couple of the lessons now from making my clangor of the century, where I lost millions. And so here's a little snippet from that one. What are the lessons from that particular deal before I go into the bigger one? Number one, never, ever, ever, ever call a deal a no-brainer, all right? Myself and Andrew, I'm giving away his name, myself and my business partner, we basically said afterwards, like, if I ever hear the word no-brainer again, I'm going to run a mile. Rule number two, or lesson number two, never assume a deal is done until the actual agreement is in your hand with the signature on the page. Okay, that is the only time that you should assume that the deal is a done deal. Just because the architect is looking at it, or just because the builder has, started to move stuff onto the site, until that lease is signed, there is no lease, there is no deal, and be very, very careful to jump to that conclusion. Okay, we're into the top five, and the number 5 episode that was really quite popular, and it was actually a short one that I created when I had just moved into the new house, and so it was not a particularly long episode, but it was on tips to accumulate a lot of money, and that was episode number 172. I'll play you a short snippet from it now. Savings is the next part, is part 3, and savings, this is what I consider to be a temporary accumulation of your earnings for a future purpose. And this could be, the purpose that you have in mind for this could be an investment, but it could also just be that you're deferring payment until you've accumulated enough. So that could be, you want to buy a car, you want to buy a holiday, you want to refurbish your house or something like that. Not all of those are investments. So, if you're going to go and buy a car and you need to save up, 10,000 in order to do that, say, you save 10,000, then you go and get a car loan or something like that. Don't delude yourself by thinking that's an investment. That is throwing money down the toilet. But you will have a nice car. So don't get me wrong. We all need, a lot of us need to drive, and having a nice car does give you a sense of abundance, and it's nice to have a decent car. And people who are into cars, it's definitely, but don't fool yourself into thinking that it's an investment, because I don't know. I've never known a car not to lose money. Now, top 4, number 4, and it is 157, episode 157, featuring my conversation with Owen Riley. Now, Owen is a real estate agent from Dublin, and he came into my office and we discussed everything about the Dublin property market and his career to date. I'm going to give you a couple of tips from Owen now. I hope you enjoy. In terms of other things that have happened in estate agency, is there any other area that has completely radically shifted?
Well, not enough. I mean, I think the structure of firms, and even if you look at some of the top people or partners and directors in some of the larger firms, the same people there that was there 20 years ago when I came into the business. In America, what's really kind of changed there is the teams side of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting because right now, if you're a successful agent, you've got a few options. One is put in your 20 years and hopefully become a director or a partner. Or option 2 is you go out on your own and you take all the risks that come with that. And I think we need something else. A bit like the American model, where you develop your own client base and you bring in your own business, and you just want to focus on that. As you know, having your own business.
Into the top 3. So number 3 is an episode I spoke with, episode 156. I spoke with Adam Lawrence, and Adam is a property investor based in Birmingham in the UK. And in this particular episode, we talk about how he has managed to scale his portfolio. Now, he buys pretty much exclusively UK property, but Adam has scaled his portfolio from his first property about 10 years ago to over 600 properties today. And I wanted to ask, how do you manage all of the different partnerships that you have? Because the model that Adam has done is he goes after properties with other partners and he brings in investment capital from various partners. And I was asking, how do you manage the conflicts? If you have lots of different people, don't they all want to get into the same deal? Or how do you manage that? And so here is Adam's answer on that. How do you manage some of those conflicts, potential conflicts?
Yeah, so again, probably transparency being the best one. in that everybody knows about everybody else. And also people understand where they are in the hierarchy of, well, where's the next deal going? You know? So I've tried to foster a real mindset of abundance when, even though deals are scarce, they're always scarce in every environment, right? But really, we want to be able to worry about the next one, not this one. So it does. I've very much trained my brain to think, well, do you know what? If I'm working with someone and they're going to get 50% of the if we're working on a lead generation strategy, let's say, and they want to keep some stuff for themselves, I just force myself to say, well, do you know what? Well done, you've got that one. Move on. I look forward to the next one. You know, and I kind of try and foster that mindset in my business partners as well, because realistically, we can do things that most people can't. We're very, very good buyers.
And we're down to number 2. Our episode number 2 now is Christina Buckley. This is actually from episode 154 back a few months ago. And I spoke with Christina on buying property through your pension. Now, this was a really popular episode, I think because so many people realized the value of it only after I had kind of introduced the episode. And what is a pension? A pension is effectively an opportunity to have free money. And by that I mean no tax, completely tax-free environment inside of your company, and protected even from other creditors and things like that. So absolutely really valuable episode. And so I'm going to play a short clip from my conversation with Christina Buckley now.
The type of structure that we bought the 2 properties in was called a SAP. So it was a small self-administered pension. If you want to buy property, you want a non-standard PRSA or self-administered PRSA. And that seems to be the one now that has been changed a little bit in the Finance Act.
For the people that are listening here right now, the structure that you used is no longer available, but there is still structures available that would allow people to make investments into their pension. In terms of the benefits, we were talking about this earlier. So let's say you're a carpenter or a plumber, and like everyone at the moment is out the door with work, they're flat out. And so theoretically, you're doing quite well at the moment. You're making some good money in your company, and the company, the cash flow is building up. A question I get a lot from my listeners is that you've got, should I buy through my company? Because they've got cash sitting in the company.
And finally, guys, and this one was a real surprise to me, but number 1, the most popular episode of 2023 was none other than last week's episode. And this is crazy because normally when you post a video or a podcast, the first 7 days, you'll attract some interest, but you will obviously continue to attract listeners over the following months. So the longer an episode has been up there, the higher the number of listens. This particular episode I posted last week, episode 187, and it was on the mortgage rates and my predictions for 2024, where the rates are going. It has had 400% more downloads than any other episode I have ever created. And so this one effectively went viral as a podcast. And I think what happened was the US Spotify market picked it up or something like that, because I did notice just an enormous amount of listeners from the US and in particular on Spotify. So very interesting. But I'm going to play you some of those predictions and clips from that episode now. So in 12 months, what is the rate? What are the rates going to be? And this is where there's a massive divergence. And, in the last example, we talked about 6 months' time. Where do we think? And I was able to tell you that, 6 out of 10 people believed that it was going to be 3.5 or 3.75. In the case of the next 12 months, by December of 2024, there's about 1 in 10 think it's going to be at 3.75. I would say around 2 in 10 think it's going to be 3.5. And around 50% think it's going to be 3.25. But another 1 in 10 think it's going to fall as far as 3. And another 1 in 10 think that it's going to fall as low as 2.75. So the winner there is 3.25. But that's a year from now. And it's, there's quite a range. between 3.75 at the top and 2.75. So there's a full 1% range there. So guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you found it useful. Definitely go and check out the Momentum 2024 early bird offer in the show notes. I'm going to have it highlighted down there so you can definitely find it. I really look forward to those of you who do sign up. I really look forward to working with you guys and having a really strong kickoff to 2024. I really do think it's going to be potentially a great year for us all. And that's not taking into account, the difficulties that people are going through with interest rates and all that. But it really is a matter of being prepared and sort of going out there with a different mindset. And so I do think the potential is there to really make something happen in the first 3 months of the year. And so until we meet again, my friends, I guess I'm going to see you next year. And so I'm wishing you all a very, very happy New Year's Eve. I hope you all enjoy some celebrations. Don't go out there and get sozzled. But I will be having a couple of drinks. In fact, believe it or not, I'm sitting here in my office having a Heineken Zero right now. And so on that, I shall leave you all. Take care, guys, and see you in 2024.